Hello and welcome to Season 2, Episode 19 of the DC United Kingdom podcast. I'm your host, James Graham. As you'll see alongside me on that side, I nearly got it right. Nearly. And I think that's because, yeah, it really is. I never know which side I'm pointing on. I think it's because I forgot to flip reverse my camera before going live. So when we come back after the sponsor message, I'll have it the right way around.
Thanks, James. Yes, Henry here from the MLS UK show, and Major League Soccer is well and truly back. We're in full flow, although if you're an Atlanta fan like me, or of course a DC United fan, you probably wish we were still suspended. On the latest episode of the MLS UK show, we talk about what's been happening in MLS, and also we look forward to a potential signing for Inter Miami. Gonzalo Higuain, can he have the same impact as what Wayne Rooney had with DC United? Hopefully it'll last a bit longer than 18 months. We're also looking ahead to playoffs, especially now that the East has got 2 more places. And again, as an Atlanta fan and to DC United, thank you. That helps us a lot. So make sure you subscribe. Check us out on your podcast provider. And also you can watch each episode on YouTube. Just search MLS UK Show and you can catch up with every episode of this season over there. Thanks, James. Back to you.
Well, we are back. So thank you to Henry for giving us that little clip there. Go and head over to the guys over at MLS UK show and go and see their videos over on YouTube because they're absolutely brilliant. It's like listening to a couple of guys down at the pub, I want to say, because they are awesome. But as you can see, I've got it correct now. I finally flip reverse my camera. I look as I am in person now, not the mirror image of me anymore. I've got Donald with me. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. How you doing, James?
I'm doing very well. I've got a little bit of a croaky voice, though.
I mean, that happens.
It happens.
When you do podcasts and stuff like that, I get it. Like, I do a couple podcasts. Sometimes your voice just doesn't want to do it, but we pipe through. We go through. We get through it all.
Exactly. And I think sometimes having a little bit of a croaky voice makes it sound a little bit sexier.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I won't sing because if my wife hears this, she will say I'm tone deaf, so she will be shouting at the podcast right now. Go, don't sing. So
I hear the words "a happy wife, happy life."
Exactly. Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes. Right. So, as you've seen in the intro, this is all about a look back at the Phase 1 return of MLS, which has been 6 games. We've got another 3 coming up, but we will talk about that very, very soon. But just a little rundown of what we've seen so far. So like I just said, we played 6 times. We've only won once, which was against the Red Bulls, so that was decent. Or should I say the Metro Stars. We have unfortunately been beaten 3 times, and we've tied twice. So 5 points from a possible 18, Donald. What have you made of the first 6 games so far?
It's been frustrating. I'm sure most fans will agree with that. It's been a struggle. There's a thing about playing uninspired soccer or just playing soccer that people would consider, dreary or boring or just not sexy whatsoever, right?
Yep.
But if you win, no one cares about that. Right now, we're not winning. We're not getting results from this. So that's why the frustration is kind of mounting a little bit. And on top of that, when you have one game where you don't have a single shot anywhere, on goal, away from goal, kicking the ball into the stands, anything, that adds to the frustration and really just the creativity that we were expecting to see this season. Get it. It's 2020. We've had, the worst year ever when it comes to just sports and life and how this works. But,
yep.
You still want to see a team that is improving week after week. And right now we're just not seeing that. At least I'm not seeing that. So that's the frustrating part is, we've had some injuries, but we've had some nice bright spots in the young guys, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But some of the guys it doesn't seem like they've gotten better, and it doesn't seem like they have clicked together. And that adds to just everything that people are feeling, where it's just like, the season kind of we don't want the season to be a watch, but they're playing like it is.
Yeah. It's a bit bizarre because, as you rightly said, it's 2020. This has just been an absolute bizarre year, and we've had 3 pre-seasons. We've had these major injuries, one at the start, one in this before the second half of the Phase 1, and actually we had another pretty major injury with Flores as well. So it's tricky to get a consistent side out. And I know earlier today Ben said in his press conference that we've not been able to use Gressel in his best position yet. So, and to be honest, I wasn't hugely impressed with his performances at the tournament, but since, I think he's improved massively, and he's been wicked with his crosses, great from the set piece. I think we are starting to see the best of Julian Gressel coming out now. But let's run through these games quickly, these last three, because on the last show with John from RFK Refugees, a little shout out to you guys, I went through the first three games. So these next three that we had. So the first one against the Red Bulls, where we won 1-0 somehow in the 98th minute with an Eric Sorga special. And I'm just going to say this, for those guys who are part of the DC UK group, I called it, didn't I? I absolutely called that. So unfortunately, I didn't call any of the other games correct, but I called that one, so I'm happy with that. Just little things that I've had on my little notes for the show. Chris Hyde's got his first clean sheet for the club. Fantastic. Fred Brion returned to the starting lineup. However, Felipe did tear his ACL before the game. And that was a bit strange because I remember seeing Goff tweeting out the injury list and Felipe wasn't on it. And I'd seen posts on Instagram from his teammates saying, "Get well soon, you'll recover in no time," things like that. I was just like, what's going on? And then, yeah, it was announced that he had torn his ACL and I think it's a 9-month layoff for him.
It's usually 6 to 9 months. I mean, we kind of see from Paul Ariolo. I know we'll talk about his progression, but he's progressed a little bit faster than most people would have, and but he's still at right around that 6 or 7 month range. So, for all intents and purposes, Felipe, we are without Felipe until some point in the middle of next season.
Yeah, and fingers crossed he does recover well and recover quickly, like Paul seems to be doing now. So, yes, but replacement. Mohamed Abu made his first start. What did you make of him?
I thought he was fine. I mean, bringing him in, we brought him in to do this, right? To be that depth, to have cover in case someone went down. And I thought he handled himself pretty well, especially against the midfield of the Red Bulls. I think when it comes to this game, just in general, like, you just look at this game and I'm like, okay, the first 94 minutes, don't worry about it. If you haven't seen it, don't worry. Just fast forward to 94 and then just go from there. Because at that point, really, you saw the aggression and you saw the pressing that you wanted to see from our team the entire game. They went after it. They said, hey, we have a chance to steal 3 points on the road. Let's go do it. We have, 4 or 5 minutes to do it. Go out and get it. And they played freer. Abu was playing, at this point, all these guys that are on the field are playing a little bit freer. And Sorga, I mean, his shot wasn't like it was a set up shot off of a set piece. He just took it and said, cool, let me rip it. Let me see what happens. And it went in. I mean, that's the sort of thing that you want to see sometimes. Obviously, you want to see more structure throughout the game. But when it comes to, sometimes you just got to just, fire gel at the wall and see if it sticks.
Yeah. It's that one moment of magic. Oh, my voice went a little bit funny there.
There you go.
One moment of magic that is what this game needed. And Sorga, with that nice little nod down, set himself up nicely. And as you already said, just had a go. And that's what we need at the moment, is the willingness to just have a shot. And that leads me into the second game against New York City FC, where we recorded for the second time in MLS history. We weren't the first ones, but the second time ever, no shots on goal.
No shots, period.
Yep.
Like I said, if literally none. Someone had kicked one from midfield, that didn't even happen.
I was expecting Chris Seitz to have a go from way back.
Yeah. Why not? We've had this before, right? A few years back, we had the one shot, one kill game where Chris Walsh had the only shot of the game and we won. And then the very next week, it was, or I think it was 2 weeks later after that game, was the game against RSL where it was 5-1 at halftime and we won 6-4. And it was just like everyone was shooting from. I mean, if you were in the stands, you were taking shots at that game. Yeah. So we've had the various extremes of this, right? And this game where it was just like, if this was a game that was where fans were in the stands, this was the first game back at Audi Field since the restart. If that was a game where fans were in the stands, every fan would have been entitled to their money back. I feel like I'm owed a couple of sets of eyeballs from just even looking at that game. Like that game was atrocious, but we somehow got a result because NYCFC decided to be equally as bad as us on that night.
It was bizarre because this was the game that I was away for, so I was on holiday, so I was downstairs trying to stream off of either my iPod or on my phone or on my laptop on Wi-Fi, which just didn't exist, and it was tough to watch, even just from the quality of the resolution point of view. So I would say I didn't miss too much, I think, especially on the shooting front. But how do I pronounce? Is it Gelman or is it Helman Rivas? He made his debut.
Yeah.
He made his debut, and to be honest, he didn't look too bad on his debut.
Yeah, he didn't look too bad in there. I thought he looked, better against Red Bull this past weekend, where you could see kind of the flashes of like, oh, this is what we're signing him to be. But I think when it comes to that game, or just to NYC game, it just seemed like nobody knew where everyone was. They weren't playing together. And because of that, and the thing about soccer is that, and I know you know this, you can see that immediately. You can see when guys just don't show up clicking. It's very evident in the field, and it was no more apparent than it was against NYCFC, because those guys didn't. It looked like Ben went into the stands and picked out 11 cutouts and said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. You guys are playing today, and their guys were just like, oh, cool, nice to meet you, because that's how they played. But this is a team that clearly we've had these guys for quite a while, so it's surprising that this late in the season that we're playing like we would be playing in probably preseason.
Yeah, and we just had a comment on the YouTube chat, so thank you to Kim for giving us a comment. And if anyone else is out there watching now, give us your thoughts whilst we're going through this, and we'll talk about them as well. So Kim has said tactics in both games were necessary to right the ship after the tournament in Orlando and the debacle in Philadelphia. Ugly, but brought back discipline. Fair points. I mean, there were back-to-back clean sheets as well. And after, 5-1 drubbing we had?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When you look at it from that point of view, granted, we did need to stop conceding goals, but at the end of the day, if you don't take a shot, you can't win the game.
Right. We can't rely on own goals. I know own goals started a few years back. But we can't rely on him to show up every week. We need to be able to be aggressive and go out and get the goals. But on defense, I will say, the defense held up great during those two games.
Yep.
Is not. I don't feel like they were taking a barrage of shots and just like Chris Seitz standing on his head or anything. But they made the plays that they needed to get the ball out and make sure that the ball didn't go into the back of the net. That is something that you would think would fuel the offense, and it's just clear that the defense and the offense aren't syncing well together, because otherwise we probably would have had better outputs on the offensive end than we did.
Yeah. Kim also says, yo, what's up, Donald?
What up, Kim?
But going on that, after the Red Bull game, there was another, as you know, they do the pre-match and the post-match press conferences, and I think it was the pre-match one to the second Red Bull game. I think it was Yamil Assad was coming out and saying he's not enjoying playing this way, which I thought was a bit brave to come out and say something like that. And it kind of, and I can't remember who else was on that press conference. It was another one of the forwards. Was it a forward? Actually, no. It was Chris Adoyatsem. And he was saying the same as well. That speaks volumes to me, that the fact that the players are coming out and saying, we ain't enjoying this way of football.
Yeah, and you would expect the coaching staff and the front office to listen, because these guys, when we got them because of the creativity that they could provide. We got them because of the way they can open the field up and play a more attacking style that's quote unquote sexy, in a style of play that would make fans endear themselves to these players and endear themselves to this team. And they're not playing that way. And there's a breakdown between what these guys want to do and how they want to play with each other and how the coaching staff is setting them up or putting them or the tactics that are being used or whatever, those things aren't lining up. And, Gressel was a good point. Like you said, the last few games he's played great because he's felt more comfortable. And the first few games he did not feel comfortable. It didn't look comfortable at all. And now he's starting to feel more comfortable. But again, he's serving stuff into the box and no one's there to hit it. And he's used to having, Joseph Martinez nail it home. We don't have Joseph Martinez, and that's okay. But we have guys that can duplicate that. And, if a ball is served on the platter the way he's doing it, be able to, fire them home. And we're just not taking care of business.
So talking about sexy football, we had Red Bull, the reverse fixture. So we had Red Bulls at home. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, they got the revenge. It was a 2-0 defeat. However, I felt like we played a lot better than we had done for such a long time. And I would want to put that down to having 2 up top. And I felt like that was such a pleasant change. I just loved it. So Helman Rivas made his first DCU start after coming on in the last game. Paredes made his 7th consecutive start for the club as a 17-year-old. That's insane. And what else did we had? We had all the possession. I think we had 63% possession, which is compared to all season, really. I think it's the most amount of possession we've had.
We're never a team that really wins possession like that, or just has possession like that. And that was really nice to see. And on Paredes, like, the kid is confident as hell. I love the way he plays because he goes out. He kind of just doesn't. He hasn't seen a bad game yet because he goes out and attacks the way that you would think a 17-year-old would want to attack the game. Yeah. And I think, when it comes to like Griffin Yao, when he gets his spots, and Moses Nyami, when he gets his spots, they're doing the same thing too. So I like what I'm seeing from the young kids because they are coming out with an aggression that says, hey, I want to go make something happen. And if enough guys on the team want to make something happen, something will happen.
Yeah. And so going forwards, and looking into the next 3 games, would you continue playing the youngsters?
Absolutely. I mean, especially now, we're going to talk about this next phase. This next phase is really just a week. I mean, starting this Saturday, we have 3 games in 8 days. Yeah. So if you're going to be playing, we need to be rotating a bunch of guys. Guys are already tired. The conditioning is just not there because of just how loosey-goosey the season has been and just how many twists and turns and days that we can't practice or whatever, right? But at the same time, the constant is the youngsters are going to be able to recover quicker. The youngsters are going to be able to play longer. The youngsters are going to be able to play with more aggression and more just that aggression that comes with being that young. So I would give them a chance, see what they can do. Toronto, Nashville, and New England, those are 3 games. I mean, they all been playing pretty well, but those aren't all – none of those are games that we're going to lose. Like, those are all winnable games if we go out and go for it. So I think by playing these young kids, I think they could go out and we can get a 3-game stretch. We say, here's how they handle the adversity of playing games in such a short period of time with a lot of pressure on them. I think I want to see that happen because I think to this point, they've shown me that they deserve that opportunity.
Yeah. Going back to that Red Bulls game for a brief moment anyway. Mm-hmm. Rivas with his half volley, or was it a full volley actually? Oh, what an attempt. And you've got to give props to Ryan. Is it Ryan Mara?
Mira, yeah.
What a save.
Yeah, it was that is the frustration you see. Like, you get that flash, you're like, yes. And then I feel like it was like maybe 5 minutes later, the other end, we're like, what are we doing? Like, like, it's just not consistent enough over 90 minutes. So it gives you frustrated. But that right there is like, yeah, do more of that. Do more of that, Rivas. Like, I really liked, he didn't play, he played like 65 minutes or something like that. But, I liked what I saw from him in this game because again, he was pressing the issue, he was trying to make things happen.
I think him and Kamara up top works really well together as well because I think a lot of the time with Kamara, he is a player who likes to drift out wide and move into the channels and really pick up the ball out wide and then make his runs inside. Rivas, what a target, man. The amount of times I saw the ball pumped up long to him and he was winning headers, great first touch. And we look at, I think it was the 1v1 situation just before Rivas' volley.
Hmm.
He was part of that build-up play to set up Julian Gressel. And what can you say about that effort apart from why did he use the outside of his foot? Why didn't he just blast it into the bottom corner like any sane footballer would do?
I mean, that's the thing is sometimes you just try new stuff and see if it works. It didn't work that time, but again, that link up, that build up right there between those guys, I want to see more of how that works. I want to see how that progresses because we saw, I keep going back to flashes. We saw flashes of that in this game. It just didn't work out on that particular play. It didn't work out on the following corner, but you're like, okay, if these guys are going to be aggressive like that, then we need to put these guys in position where that aggression can turn into goals. And same with, Kamara, it's funny that he trends to come out wide because before he would poach a lot of goals. When he was with LA Galaxy and with the Crew, he would poach a lot of goals. And that's kind of what we brought him in to do, is kind of like, oh, the ball's just gonna be banging around the box from all these other guys and he can just step on it and kick it in. But he's trying to, kind of go out and be one of those guys that comes in from the outside as well. So if Rivas is going to be that target man, hopefully he can also be the poacher that we haven't had yet this season.
Yeah. And do you think the reason why Kamara's going out wide then is because he's not actually getting that service into him? Because it seems like we have been struggling all season on the wings. I mean, we've had Segura out where, obviously because Paul Arriola's been out injured. Would this season be different if Arriola was fit?
Absolutely. I mean, you wouldn't have to worry about that side of the field at all. Like, if you think about it, I feel like every guy in the attacking half of our lineup has played every position and has not played the same position twice in a row. Like that, and that's got to be frustrating to them. Where Gressel's like, okay, one day I'm serving it to Segura, one day I'm serving it to Kamara, one day I'm serving it to Rivas, now Flores, back to Gura. Like it's like a carousel, and you don't know which horse you're grabbing when you get on every single game. So this is, as we settle down, and that has to do with injuries. There's a lot of people who are out. I mean, we haven't had Russell Canales in a few weeks. Felipe is lost. Like those type of players that are usually solidly in the lineup, and we don't have to worry about those positions. Now we have to, cycle people in and out of those positions, and that can't help with consistency. So as hopefully some of these guys come back, hopefully Canales is coming back soon. Hopefully Birnbaum will be playing this weekend. Hopefully we get Hamid back. I know he wasn't injured, but he's been out for the last 4 or 5 matches. So hopefully we get some of these guys back, and that way, because when those guys are on the field, it may not be necessarily the position is locked down, but there's a confidence where like, hey, I know if something happens here, this guy's got my back, and this guy knows how to handle it. That's what we haven't had this season because of the rotating, musical chairs that we have on every position so far.
So, if we had a fully fit roster, I was just thinking as you were just talking about that there, how are we going to fit all of our midfielders in? Because I'm thinking the way we played with 2 up top, I want to see Ben continue with doing that, because it really meant that we had a good offense. 3 at the back seems to be working okay at the moment, even with Mora at centre back. He seems to be doing okay. He's not brilliant or brilliant. See what I did there.
Sometimes he's had to be brilliant when Briant's not in the game. So
yeah, and I think I'm trying to think. There was one particular move from that game with the Red Bulls, and Briant just stood still. I think whether it's just the fact that he's still playing with an injured ankle and he's just lost the pace. Oh no, he's not the fastest player, but lost the pace, and you just see Mora having to run back and track back. I think I wouldn't be too disappointed if he had to continue as centre back, but I think out of the defenders we've had so far in this first phase, how awesome has Donovan Pines been?
He's been great. I loved him last year. I was at that game in Minnesota where he scored. I don't care what AR will tell anybody, that man scored.
That was a legit goal.
Legit goal. I was very, very pissed off for him that he did not get that. But and then even last year he had those games where he played really well and then he got hurt and he just couldn't find himself to get back into the shape needed to really battle for 90 minutes. So it was kind of unfortunate that the injury occurred where it did, because if it didn't, maybe we go further in the playoffs because we have that guy really, like having the confidence of being able to play 90 minutes against the best, forwards in MLS. So now he's starting to get some of that confidence. His acumen isn't there yet. Like, I feel like he's not putting it quite together yet on some things. He gets lost sometimes, and that's okay. I'm willing to deal with that because I think what his attributes, what he brings to the table, is something that cannot be matched by anybody on our roster. And once that slows down for him, he's going to be terrific. He's going to, in my mind, I think he can be a future, men's national team center back because I think he has that kind of skill. He just needs the game to slow down for him, and it just hasn't quite got there yet.
Yeah, and I think that his soccer knowledge will only get better as time goes on and the more minutes he's getting.
That's where he needs.
He just needs minutes, and the fact that he's getting that now, and you can see week by week, game by game, he's getting better.
This is where the pandemic has probably failed him, right? Because last year he was playing a lot of games at Loudoun United. He was getting that experience. He was getting the match fitness and the games and the minutes down there when he wasn't up here. Now we have injuries, so we only had. There's a point where we only had 3 center backs. We were using 2 of them, so he was the backup for both center backs. We got Schoberg, and now there's two backups, but still there's no one to be like, good enough to say, okay, we'll have him as the backup, and we can send Pines to Loudoun for a couple of games to get some fitness and stuff like that. So he's kind of been in that tweener phase, where he just can't get minutes on the field, and he can't go anywhere else where he could get those minutes because they need him on the first team because of the injury issue. So I'm not necessarily upset at him for any of that because I feel like the pandemic has really failed him in that regard.
But and on the flip side, the pandemic has helped him in this first phase of return.
Yeah,
because he's been able to get those games in.
Mm-hmm.
Just a couple of comments coming again through on the YouTube chat, so keep those coming in. That's great. My mate Stu over here in the UK has just said Pines for president.
I'll take him.
Yeah, I wouldn't say no to that. And he's also said it's really good to see young players getting game time and forming bonds. No relegation risk. So is this just a case of taking it on the chin to prep and build for next season?
No. And I'll say because we've had too many of those this decade. We've had 2010, 2013, 2017. Yep. And as a fan base, we can say that we're tired of waiting for next year. We're tired of having that mentality of, oh, don't worry about this year. We're just going to kind of go through the motions. And then next year's when we build for it. We've only had 1 year where we said, okay, next year could be the year. And that was last year. And last year was just messed up. A lot of situations, namely losing Rooney in the middle of the season. And then the Lucho fiasco and all of that, right? Like we had a chance to do something great, do something very special. And last year, the way it ended just left a bad taste in fans' mouth. This year, we're not expecting to be like, okay, let's just start over and build back up, and maybe next year we'll go for it. We want a team that aggressively every year comes in, says, this is our year. We're not waiting for next year. We're going for it right now. These players are going for it right now. So while there's no relegation issue, I'm not really worried about that part. That's a whole nother episode for another day. I want to see a team that goes out and says, we're not waiting for next year. Let's go take what's ours right now. I think every fan wants that. And they want a front office and a coaching staff and a player roster that reflects that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason why we want that is we've got such a rich history in Major League Soccer, the amount of trophies that we've won. We're not a team that is happy to settle for first round exit in the playoffs. We need to be winning these conferences. We need to be winning the MLS Cup. It's so disappointing. But the beauty of Major League Soccer is if we don't end up doing so well this season, the way, from this side of the pond anyway, from the way MLS seems to work, we could not really change the roster that much, but we could end up winning MLS Cup out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm. Yes, there's a lot of parity. And also with the rules with MLS, like, 2013, we won US Open Cup, but we had one of the worst seasons on record. But because of that, we got a lot of allocation money. We got a lot of money, for that. We made Champions League, so we got extra money from that. And then we used the reentry draft and used our order, our place at the top of the reentry draft and all the allocations and stuff like that to get players and make some moves so that the next year we finish to the top of the East. So there's a way to do it, but the problem is, again, that was a point where we're like, at, basically by April 30th, we're like, all right, next season we'll just start playing towards next season. We can't have that. We can't have that mentality more often than that. And sure enough, every year something happens where we're like, now we're just in, wait till next year mode. And that can't be for an organization and a club as rich in tradition as ours is. We want to be able to tell our fans every year, hey, we may not have gotten trophies, but we went for them. Like US Open Cup, it's not happening this year, but we want it. Our fans want us to go after every single piece of silverware possible and go after it aggressively because those are ours and we should go take them. That's how the mentality we one of our favorite trophies is the armadillo that we won at a preseason tournament in Austin. It was the only year they had this thing. They canceled the very next year because of storms and stuff like that. But that armadillo still exists and it's still in our trophy case. It's one of the favorite ones. And that's something because we said, hey, it's preseason, but there's an armadillo on the line and damn it, we're going to go get it. So let's go get every trophy we can possibly get.
I love the fact that you've mentioned that because Kim mentioned that on the chat. The last thing we won was an armadillo.
Yeah.
What an armadillo.
That was the year after US Open Cup. So I guess we need to bring back the Austin tournament so we can go defend maybe if we can defend our title, we can get in that mentality in February.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, this whole 2020, in a way, I do want to write it off because it's not been your regular MLS regular season. It's just been absolutely mishmash of bits and bobs. Let's put it that way. That's the best way I can describe it. But we've had the Phase 1 return after the MLS is back tournament. We're coming up to Phase 2 now. So let's have a quick rundown of the 3 games that we've got. So, as you've already mentioned, it is Toronto, Nashville, and New England. The next game is on Saturday evening, and that is a 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff. We are at home to Toronto. That is a 12:30 British Summertime kickoff for us. Yes.
Get your nap in.
12:30. I mean, to be honest, it's not the worst kickoff I've ever stayed up for.
That's true.
Then we've got the game against Nashville away, and that is an 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff, and so that means it's a 1:30 a.m. kickoff over here. And that is on the 23rd of September. And then we have the last game of this phase on the 27th of September, and that is against New England Revolution at home again.
Again,
so
we've played them 3 times. We played them twice. This will be the 3rd time. We played them twice at home.
Yeah,
once during the MLS's back tournament, where we were also the home team.
I was going to say that was classed as a home game for us. So bizarre. But that is a 7 p.m. kickoff, and that means in the States, and it's a 12 a.m. kickoff over here. So it's going to be, I want to say, a little bit brutal for me anyway, because, late nights. But I want to talk about those games, and I want to see what your thoughts are, and more importantly, your predictions.
So this is where the team needs to dig deep. We're still somehow 1 point out of a playoff spot. Somehow. Don't know, forget all the bad things you want to say about this last 6 games. We are still in prime position to get a playoff berth. Yes. That is the factual knowledge. And so again, let's go get it. This is where we need to dig deep. We're already shorthanded. Hopefully we get a couple of these pieces back over the next week because that will really help with these 3 games. But we also are facing 3 teams that have been playing pretty well. Toronto is near the top of the East. Nashville has been playing well their last few games. I know beating Atlanta is not as good this year as it has been in previous years, but they played pretty well against them. And then New England has also played pretty well against us and against other teams, and they've gotten Lee Wynn back, and that is obviously going to be a boost of confidence to their guys. So Ben Olsen's got to get these guys going. You got to get some rotations working, play the young guys. Again, the young guys can recover quicker, so let me see them for some heavy minutes because I want to see what they can do with this added bit of pressure over the next 10 days. And really, I just want them to be motivated to walk out of here. We have 9 possible points. Let's walk out of here with 6. That'll keep us in the race. That really, also shows me that they're motivated to get these results, saying, hey, if we can sneak into these playoffs, who knows what can happen, right? So let's go ahead and solidify our position so that, when we finally get the second phase of this phase 2, because this was supposed to be another 6 games, they only gave us 3.
Yep.
And so let's see what happens over these next 10 days. And then from there, let's get our mind for the next ones. And it's funny, we're treating it kind of like American football. American football kind of breaks a long season down into quarters. So you're like, all right, these next 4 games, what are we going to do? These next 4 games, what are we going to do? Soccer, we don't really do that because games are coming every week, and you get into kind of a rhythm. But now they can say, okay, take this phase, let's knock this phase out of the park, and then we'll worry about the next thing. Because in this COVID world, that's all we can do is kind of just focus on what we have in front of us, and then we'll worry about everything else when we get to it.
Yeah, exactly. So, Toronto-wise,
Toronto,
are we going to win? We're going to tie, or we're going to get beat?
I'm going to go 1-1. I'm going to say Rivas scores.
Ooh, I'd be happy with that.
And Josie's going to score for Toronto. I think Josie's starting to get a little confidence, y'all. Like, that's not good. But I do think the defense, and again, those games, last time we played them, it was that 2-2, wild game at 9 a.m. Over here, where Akinola scored twice, and then we had Brian and then Higuain. But I do think Rivas gets his first goal for us, and I think Josie gets one on the other side, so it's 1-1.
Fair. I'm liking that. I think depending on the formation, if we do go with the 2 up top, I think we've got a good chance of sneaking a victory out of this, because I don't know, I just have that feeling, And I do agree, Rivas will be scoring.
Right. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope you're right.
I think my fingers are crossed, my toes are crossed. Well, they're not really crossed, but
yeah,
the sentiment is there.
Yeah.
We then come up against Nashville, which this will be the first time we've played against them.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit of an unknown. It is at their Nissan Stadium, and it's going to be... They've played really well. I think didn't they beat Atlanta United 4-2?
Yeah.
Recently? Atlanta have been awful this season.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still Atlanta United. They've built this reputation as being one of the big teams in Major League Soccer. That goes down as a huge win for Nashville, and that will give them a heck of a lot of confidence. We've got to be mindful of that, I want to say.
So my rule for expansion teams is don't lose to expansion teams. So I feel like that's a pretty easy rule. I feel like that's one that's fair. And Nashville, love visiting there. One of my favorite cities in America. However, your team is an expansion team. So thus rule 1 applies. We cannot lose to them. And I don't think we will. I think it'll be a 2-0 victory. I'm not sure who's going to score there. I'm going to reserve judgment for that because a lot can happen in 6 days, and I have no idea who's going to be playing. So, so I'm going to say it's going to be 2-0. I do think Bill is back in goal at that point and gets the clean sheet for us.
I'll go with that. I'll agree with that. So at the moment you've got 4 points for DC. I'm currently sitting on 6 here.
Mm-hmm.
I've got this optimism. I don't know why. It's just the way I am. I think it's the British part of me. I'm always optimistic. And then we come up against New England Revolution, who we did get beat by in the last game. It was 2-1?
2-1. It was back about 2.5 weeks ago.
Yeah. So do we get revenge in this game?
No.
No?
This is the one where I think is going to be a little bit of a struggle because I do think they match up pretty well with us.
Yeah.
And also, I'm just going to chalk this one up to the fact of after playing 2 games in the span of 4 days, that these guys are tired. We've seen that. We've seen them kind of lose their edge when we have a lot of games in a short period of time. This will be no exception. I think it'll also be 2-1.
Oh, so you're going for it? Is that a defeat for us? Is it 2-1 that way?
I think this one is the one where we catch the L.
Oh, so you're finishing on this phase with 4 points. I'm going to say we're going to tie this game because that seems to be the going theme for matchups between us and New England. The amount of ties that we've had.
We do love it.
And a good sending off in this game as well.
Yeah. That's a nice prediction. Who is it?
It's going to be a sending off, and Bruce Arena.
Oh, that's easy. I thought you were gonna stretch for that. Bruce may not be coaching this game. Like he might get sent off this
That's-
weekend. He's just coming back from another suspension. Like, that man's gonna say something.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy. I don't know why there's always a good aggression between the two teams, and it's not one your typical rivalry. But I think give it another couple of years, this could be a big rivalry between the two sides, especially if Bruce Arena's still there.
I think it's always been a traditional rival. Like, I mean, when it comes to, DC United and New England Revolution, the greatest game ever played was between these two teams in 2004
Of course, yeah,
playoffs. Like, I mean, the rivalry goes way back between these two teams, and the good thing is with regards to the rivalry is that a lot of these players know each other very well. Ben and Bruce obviously know each other very well. They want to beat each other really bad, and they want to, outshine the other. So there's that element as well. So the storylines may not be as sexy for MLS as other, rivalries, but this is one. And I won't say it's our biggest rivalry by any stretch, but it is one where, our fan bases are just like, we have a common, like, yeah, you know what? They're fine. We just want to beat them. That's like, we just want to get them out of the paint, and then we can carry on with life. But I think this is one of those games that's going to be back and forth. It's going to be aggressive on both sides. There's going to be a lot of fouls. If Bruce gets sent off, then I don't think Benny will, because that point, Benny can say what he wants. Benny gets close, but he doesn't cross the line. Bruce is just a line stepper. Like, that's what he does. So, so that'll be an interesting game to watch.
Yeah, and I think Kim is also agreeing with the fact that saying he's just said New England is also big and physical as well. So I think we're all in agreement on that side of things.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do think we will miss Felipe in this game though, because I do love his aggression, and I think
he's also a line stepper. If we be honest, he's a line stepper too on the field. But yeah, that's the sort of get to the line without crossing it. We need that aggression in this game because they're going to bring it too. We have to match the intensity level. And that's been our issue sometimes. Sometimes we don't match that intensity level that the other team is bringing. We have to do that against New England. New England's only, I think they're in 8th place. We're in 11th. So they're only within like a couple points of us. So that will be a very important game to get back in. So I hope I'm wrong on this. I just think we will run out of some gas, but in the end, that is an important game when you're looking at the standings to get into these playoffs. You're going to want to beat a team like that because you're going to want to show that any team in the playoffs can be beat by you.
Yeah, I think, as you rightly said, it's going to be a close game. And I think if the team does it right and they build it up like a big rivalry game where on the social media front they start playing clips from the Rumble at RFK, those kind of things, I think from a fan point of view, this could be a massive, massive game, and hopefully we can all get behind the club in this one and really take it to them.
Yeah, and that's a home game, so that gives me a little bit more hope. That means last time we played them, it was on the road. That you never and especially now with how travel is working, where they're not being able to do their full routine. At least when you're at home, you get to go through your full routine.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to go for a tie in this one. You've said a 2-1 defeat. So at the end of these games, you've got 4 points. Sorry, I've got 7.
Yeah, I hope we're both wrong, and that hope is 9.
That would be nice. That
would be nice. Give us some cushion.
Yeah,
but we just gotta see. That's why they play the games.
Absolutely. So as we've just been talking about that, we've obviously said about us sneaking into the playoffs, and the reason for that this year, weirdly, they've given 10 places, playoff places in the Eastern Conference this season, mainly because they've had to. I think they've moved Nashville from the Western Conference over to us. So they've kind of made it up in that way. It's just a bit of a strange thing. They were talking about it on this week's episode on MLS UK show about how they're going to work it out with the playoff situation. So go and listen to that because I'm still confused.
I think we all are.
Yeah, there we go. Right, let's move on to a little bit of news that's been popping up this week. The big one, and if you're obviously an avid DC Youth fan, you've probably watched the Gressel special, and he announced that the DC Youth Academy is fully paid now. How awesome is that?
Long overdue. It's great news. It's long overdue. We were one of 2 teams that were pay to play for their academy. And now we are one of 26 teams now, or 25 teams that don't have that anymore. And I think
Yeah.
that's great because it allows us to go after some of the talent that is in a talent rich region, go to some that are in existing regions around us and kind of pull them into our academy. And really, I think putting the emphasis on that, how that trickles from the academy to Loudon United. Loudon United is really struggling right now, but I think it's because they're trying to put together how this system is going to play out in the
Yeah.
development phase. They've played a lot of young guys, and I think that the academy is there. You can tell that the academy is breeding some really great players. We've seen it so far this season on the first team. And I think this is just the next step in that. And fully investing in that means that, we're going to be breeding players to, play for Loudon and then eventually play for DC United and then maybe even, go on to greater glory in Europe. It seems that is starting to work itself out. But this is a really big step. I mean, it's a huge step, and it's great news and it's welcome.
Yeah, I think it's, as you rightly said, it's been long overdue because it's been, in a little way, a little bit embarrassing the fact that we were one of the only sides left that was pay to play. It just, coming from the UK side where academies are throwing the money at the kids and signing them up from the age of 6 and 8 and bring them through the ranks, it just still felt really, really weird that there were still some teams out there that were doing pay to play over your side, because from sport is such it's so ingrained in your culture and the way you go about things. You would have thought pay to play would have long gone.
Yeah, you would think so. But the thing about it is, people always talk about why do we have pay to play and stuff. That's the model for every sport in the United States. I mean, when it comes to, growing up,
Okay.
I had to pay to play every sport that I played. There was no one who was like, yo, you're good enough, come play for us. If you're playing
Wow.
basketball, if you're playing, yeah, we have the, high school and whatever where you can play for free.
Yeah.
But when I'm talking about like just the AAU circuit for basketball or just the travel circuit for baseball, or even for football, all of those are paid. You have to pay to be a part of those organizations and be a part of those leagues. And so naturally, that's what they set up for soccer. And, when it's the opposite for, the rest of the world. But when I think about it, now we see how it works. And now we can see how it can be beneficial for DC United. They're building a new training facility in Loudon. That is going to be a massive complex. The Washington Spirit are also going to be there. The Academy is going to be there. Loudon United is going to be there. They've doubled the size of this because they're starting to plan for this increase in investment. So if it means that this is going to be helping us, develop the next, great players of this league, that is great. And I think that is, what this news tells us, is that they're willing to put the money where that development needs to be. So that's great. And I hope that it means, we see way more Moses Nyimans and Griffin Yaos and Kevin Paredes on the first team very, very soon.
Absolutely. What we got to remember though, this is brand new. The MLS Next program's only just been announced this year, so we got to remember it's going to take a few years for this to bed in. Mm-hmm. So we're not going to see instant results from this. It's going to take time, and I would put a good 3 years on it before we start seeing a return on investment on this, I think.
Yeah. And the thing is, this is a constant thing. This is one step of many where, to get to the moon, you can't just, I knew it was one giant leap for mankind, but it wasn't 130,000 miles. It was, it was only 10 feet because there were so many steps we had to take to get to that point. And that's the same thing here. People think that we can just, snap our Thanos fingers and everything's going to turn into this glorious thing. It's going to take time. It's going to take some, blood, sweat, and tears, and it's going to take some frustration as we are experiencing. So at that point, we're now on the path, and, that path is not going to be paved and is not going to be straight all the time. So you just got to roll with it. But this is a very, very big first step, and it's an important first step.
No, absolutely. Other news that we had out, and I think this came out at the back end of this week, start of this week. It does look like Bill Hamid is due to return for this weekend's fixture against Toronto. Little question for you, though, about the fact that Bill Hamid's been missing. have we had these defensive woes from set pieces because he's not there? Because he's a very vocal goalkeeper. His communication is top notch. Chris Seitz isn't the loudest of keepers. You don't really hear him, and especially should be able to hear him now because there's no fans there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the reason why we've been conceding so many goals from set pieces recently is the fact that Bill's not been there to organise the defence?
Probably. I mean, it probably has something to do with it. The consistency, the fact that when 24 is between the sticks, everything's going to be okay in that regard, right? Very rarely does he give up a mistake. Very rarely you're saying, yo, Bill had a bad game. It's one of those things where, like you said, he commands. Like, I think it was very evident during MLS's back tournament. We knew this, and now the rest of the country was like, wow, Bill Hamid is loud. Yeah. He's always talking. And even during the Red Bull game, he was chattering when he was on the bench. So like those sort of things that the guys are used to that. Obviously they're used to him, and he is able to quarterback a defense. He's able to tell people, I need you here, pulling guys, saying, guard this guy, set in this zone, whatever defensive set, that they're trying to do. He's able to command that. And sometimes it's hard to switch from a guy that to a guy that doesn't get to do that very often on the field for you. So Chris Seitz, over time, if he was, the long-term keeper, like maybe his style would work with the guys because they'd become accustomed to it. But they're accustomed to Bill being very loud and very in your face and very like, this is what needs to happen right now. And to the point where even, you sitting at home or you sitting in the stands is like, hey, you heard Bill, you're like, move, like get over here, guard that man. Like, so all that helps because, if you have a quarterback that can do that, a guy who can just command everything and put everybody in the right place, it makes everything easy for him as well. He also makes there's also the thing of, if I make a mistake, Bill will cover me. Bill will save me because Bill has been known to do that so many times in his career for us. So I think that is what's missing. And God, please be back on Saturday. Like, we miss you. Just come back. It'll be fine.
Yes. And I know, again, there's something that I spoke with John on the last show. Apparently the players do tune into these podcasts. So, Bill, if you're listening, please be back. We want you back.
We're ready.
We need you back.
Yeah, we're ready.
I mean, I was about to break into a Take That song. So, American listeners, you might not know that, but we want you back. We want you back. I'm going to leave it at that because I'm going to get stares and things like that from my wife in a minute. A little stat that came out, which isn't a good start for the club. We've not scored in the first half since September 22nd, 2019. Almost a full year. It's been 14 games since we last scored in the first half, and it's the joint longest run with Chivas USA, which is now a defunct team. Thoughts on that? Because I'm slightly embarrassed by it.
I mean, I think my man Jason Anderson of Black Ray United, I think he wrote that the earliest we've scored a game scored a goal in that stretch is the 59th minute. So literally what that means is we don't have to, if we want to watch ourselves score, we don't have to turn it on until the 60th minute, which is a big problem. That's not how you gain, interest, right? So the thing is that you can tell some games that we come out aggressive and it's just not happening and we get frustrated. And then there's some where we just lay back and wait and see what the other team does. And we kind of feel it out. And all of a sudden it is the 60th minute. And then that's when we decide, hey, turn on the Go Jets and let's burn.
Yeah.
So I think when it comes to it's incredibly frustrating that we almost know entering a game. We don't have to really watch the first half because nothing of note is going to happen for us. But the aggression has to come from the opening kickoff. Like in any sport, who's ready to play and who isn't. And it seems like every single game in the first half that we're quite not ready to take the field. And we need to come out with a passion and aggression that shows, hey, we may not be scoring, but it's not going to be for lack of effort. We're going to be running around. We're going to be getting, crosses in. We're going to be getting shots in. We're going to be, be trying to create something where we can and finding open guys who are sometimes need to be selfish. They don't need to give it up in the box. Take a shot because as Sorga proved, it could go in. Like those sort of things are what we need to do. And the issue is we're not seeing that in the first half, and some games we don't see it in the second half either. So that is the defense has been really good at times. We've had a couple of mistakes, and that's really what's been costing us. I mean, against Red Bull, we had 2 mistakes, led to 2 goals. They had 3 shots. Like, though I as much as I hate losing them, like, the defense was okay. I need that to turn over into the offense. I love basketball. I watch basketball all the time as much as I watch soccer. In basketball, there are teams who are like, they love blocking a shot. They love getting a good defensive stand because they take that momentum and turn it right around on offense and go get a shot. Yeah. That is what we need to do in soccer, because that's the soccer that fans want to watch. Is that, hey, they made a great stand over here, and now they're going to counter. Look at them running over there. Look at these guys spreading out and moving with the ball and taking it to the other team and having them flat-footed for once, instead of us being the ones that are flat-footed. So that's what I want to see in the first half of this game, because if we don't score in the first half of this game, it will be a year at least. Yes. The next game will be after that mark, after that September 22nd mark. So let's go out and just end this misery in the first half against Toronto. And that way we can play with a little bit more confidence in the second half as well, instead of hoping that we don't give up a goal.
So on that stat, and the fact that we actually played with a bit more attacking flair against Red Bulls in the last game, does that bode well for us? Because it showed that in the first half we had that Julian Gressel effort, we had that Helman Rivas almost goal. Does that bode well, that fact that we are now in a place where we can attack it a little bit more? We've had a full week's rest as well, so the players should be match fit, no tiredness. Is that going to bode well for us in this next game?
I hope so, because I think now we know what positions our guys need to be in on the field to be their best, right? Yeah. Like, we know how to, Rivas knows how to get the ball out to the wings. He knows how to head it and create control and create an attack going one way. Gressel knows where he needs to be on the field to send something into the box and to find his guys. Guys need to know where they need to be in the box to get open for that. So as an ambulance comes by on my end, that happens here in DC. We just got to go with it. But when you have those, when you know where everyone is on the field and you know what everyone's good at, then it's our job to put them in those positions as many times as possible so that they can do what they do. And I think when we saw in the first half, especially against Red Bull, is that we had those flashes where we could get into those spots. And so we need to work on those and say, okay, how did we arrive at this point where Gressel can do this, where Rivas can get this scoring opportunity? Let's expand on that and see if we can't put pressure on Toronto in these spots so that these guys can be open. And even if they're not open, if it's like, oh, we just missed it, maybe that means someone's coming in from another angle and they have the shot.
Yeah.
Putting pressure on defense, eventually any defense will fold. You got to put pressure on them though. And I think that is where we have been lacking all year, but we are capable of doing that with the guys that we have on the field.
Yeah. But, if we've got Bill Hamid in goal, they can put as much pressure on our defense as they want. Because you remember that game, was it 2018 against Toronto at BMO?
Yeah.
The most amount of saves in a game ever. And we kept a clean sheet.
Yeah. And we won. Like, yeah. And that's the confidence that you want, where, and anyone can go to whatever you do. You can show up and you just like have something happen early in the day and you're like, man, it's going to be a great day. Ain't nothing good. Yep. Ain't nothing stopping me today. Like, it. Like, whatever that is, you got your right breakfast sandwich, your clothes are fitting right, your hairdo's tight, whatever it is, you got a meeting, you got a bonus, whatever that is, there's going to be something that always says, yo, today's going to be great. Yep. And Bill has that. Bill, you could tell immediately, like, he makes a stop and he gets up and he just kind of goes, yeah, this is it. This is the one. We're having a good day today. And once you know that, then that means you can put more pressure on the other side, knowing, hey, we can be a little bit more aggressive because Bill's on today. Or, Birnbaum is on today, or Brian is on today. Like, you want to have those guys, if they're confident, then that means you have the leeway to send some guys up and do some things and maybe be more creative and try something to put pressure on their guys, because their guys clearly aren't having a good day.
Yeah. So, one last bit of news I wanted to briefly talk about, because we've already spoken about it in the show already. Ben also mentioned that Areola could be getting some minutes this year. When you saw that news, how did you feel? Were you as excited as I was? Because I was just, and I saw that, I was like, this is awesome. It's been a really, really bad year for us, and whether it's off the field or on the field, but there's that nice little bit of light at the end of the tunnel there.
First of all, Ariel is a cyborg. It's clear that he is mostly machine, and all he had to do is just like get the part for his knee and just put it back in and just kind of get back to it. But in all seriousness, I think it's inspiring to see him come back so quickly. And again, COVID might be COVID may have failed Donovan Pines, but it absolutely was not failing Paul Arriola, because he has a chance to play in the season that he thought was lost back in February. But when I look at it in realistic terms, like I would love to see him get some minutes this season. I'd love for him to come back. I do not expect anything from him other than running around on the field and getting his cardio and getting, gaining some confidence. I don't expect him to come out and start scoring 8-10 goals or being a focal point of creating an attack. I just want him to, first of all, I want him to be 100% healthy, because I think he is a rock star when he is healthy. And so when that happens, just kind of get that match fitness. Honestly, I wouldn't mind if he would go to Loudon for a couple games just to get that confidence, just to get that thing that I thought Yamil Assad could have benefited from last year. And
Absolutely.
I think that would, for Ariola's purposes, we're just like, look, whatever he does this year is the only thing that I want set up for next year. And honestly, if we make playoffs and the team our opponent has to prepare for a DC United lineup with Arriola in it, that means that they're scared. They're already on their back foot, and we have the edge there.
Absolutely. I don't know whether it's John or Ted, because they've not said, but they've just said, take your time, Paul, in massive capital letters there. And that is also another thing, is we want Paul to be back when he's ready. Mm-hmm. Not any time before, but when he absolutely feels he is 100% ready to go and take to that field. I don't know whether you saw the video that the club released today, where they were showing clips from their training efforts today, and it looked like it was Arriola was there with the team. I don't know whether you saw that at all.
I didn't know, but it doesn't surprise me, because again, the man is a cyborg. He doesn't live the way we do. We are normal breathing humans, and this man, when he goes home, he just takes off his machine and sets it on the charger to be recharged for the next day. I don't know how he does it, but it's really just absolutely remarkable to see the progress that he's made over the last few months, just to get back to where he is. And so, like I agree with the guys. I agree with you. If he's 110% ready, cool. Throw him in there, see what he can do. Don't expect him to come back this year. Don't expect him to do anything if he does come back. Just be glad that we have him back on the team.
Absolutely. And it was John. And he says it's almost always John. So, hey, John, thank you for tuning in. We're coming up to some questions now. So if you're watching right now, if you've got any questions, hit them up in the chat now, because we're going to go through some things. But Stu, my mate, he sent me a question a few days ago, so in preparation for this. And he asks, given the relative success of NFL playing games outside of the States, notably in London, and the frequency with which European clubs to the USA, so your Manchester Uniteds, your Chelseas, your Liverpools, would you like to see MLS explore the option of playing games in Europe?
No.
Really?
So let me rephrase. I am not a fan of MLS playing league games in Europe, like during the season league games. You know how there have been some reports that a promoter here in the United States was trying to bring La Liga to play a league game in the United States. Totally against that, 1,000%. I think league matches should be played in the league that they're in front of the fans that believe it. Whenever it's safe for us to eventually go back, it should be played in front of us, not for anyone else and elsewhere. But I do think that MLS teams should consider going abroad to Europe, maybe in January during winter breaks, to play friendlies against some European teams. We want them to go over there. I also think this brings up a big point of forming partnerships with European teams and taking advantage of those partnerships, sending guys over to train with them, having guys come over who are out of favor and say, hey, why don't you send them over here to stay match fit or whatever, like, or on loan. we have a perfect opportunity with Swansea City because Levian and Kaplan own that team, but we haven't seen that partnership materialize because we haven't seen any of our guys go over there, and we haven't seen any of their guys come over here. So why aren't we doing that? And why aren't MLS teams taking advantage of that part? And then that leads to, okay, well, we'll just, instead of us doing a normal January camp in preseason, why don't we go over to England and play Swansea or in their midweek friendly or something like that, just to get, or play their U23s or whatever.
Yeah.
Go over to Germany or go over to the Middle East, where German teams like to go for their winter break, and play a couple of them in some friendlies. Like these seemed like no-brainers, and I just don't think that they've really thought that capacity of how to do that, because that maximizes the exposure of the players. It maximizes the exposure of the team, where people go, oh wow, yeah, DC United, yeah, we played them in a friendly. They were pretty good for, we were mid-season and they were in preseason, and they, came in and fared well. Like those are the sort of things that you want to see this league do to get to the next level of being, as they say, they want to be a top 10 league. Then show that you're a top 10 league by going out and playing some of these teams that, are saying, hey, come over and play us.
Yeah, and I think with as 2019, we had some European teams coming to our field. So I think we had, was it Marseille? We had Betis over here as well.
Yep.
And that was actually really good to see that there weren't the top tier teams, but there were teams I would reckon we could actually do decently against if we put out our first team. So, and in Spain, you've got the winter break, so why can't we go over to Spain and play the likes of Betis?
Yeah, those are the games you want to see, right? Like, again, you're right. It doesn't have to be where we're going to Anfield and play Liverpool. Like, we're not asking to do that. I mean, that'd be great.
I mean, I could go and see DC United in the UK. That would be amazing.
That'd be great. But like, we're not asking to do that. But like, if we have take the young guys, for example, Yao and Paredes, like maybe in the off season, send them to Swansea to get some training in and see what it takes to get to the next level. Like, give them that exposure. Those sort of things need to happen too.
Didn't Donovan Pines spend a little bit of time during the off season at Swansea?
Yes, and I think that fared well for him. He's starting to, again, the one thing that we're saying, his game needs to slow down. He knows from that short experience how fast the game can be, right? Like, and so he's got that exposure. So now he should know what he needs to do to bring the game down to a slower pace for him, that he can react to it in the way that it needs to happen for him to excel. So those are the sort of things that you want to see. You want to see those partnerships come through. And, again, like if you could take a team over, I know we were talking about this a couple years ago, going over to Indonesia and playing. We did that. We were talking about going over to Europe at some point, not Europe, the Middle East at some point a couple of years ago. That never materialized, but that's what you want to see. You like, I get it. Like, you want to probably do it in a place where you have some fans, where you be able to travel, and that's not always the easiest thing to do. But the exposure, I would much rather them go over and play some German teams in their midweek, or their mid-season winter break. Play a Schalke or play a Wolfsburg or whoever, and just get to know how that happens. But also for these guys, they can get exposed to that level of play and say, here's what we need to do to step our game up. And maybe one day they're playing for, Wolfsburg and Schalke instead of for DC United. We'd love to have them as long as we could. But there's a point where if these guys have dreams of playing in Europe, they need to know what it's going to take to play there. We need to expose them to that sooner rather than later.
No, absolutely. Stu's just had a little thought to add to it. He agrees that not playing league games abroad, that he's 100% with you on that. But friendlies overseas, when so many European teams have ownership linked to Major League Soccer, just makes sense to him. And that's a fair point as well. The fact that you've got so many teams over here, especially in the UK, who own clubs in the States. Why isn't more teams like us taking use of that?
And it's clear they're paying attention. I mean, just the other day, DC United released that video, re-released that video of them doing challenge, the skills challenge with Bayern Munich. We're not saying go over there and play at Allianz tomorrow, but those are the sort of things where, like, hey, the partnership levels between these two, collaborating on things like that gives it, endears our players to them and their players to us. Like, those are sort of things that we want to see. And it doesn't always have to be Swansea. I know we're linked with them by owning them, but
Yeah.
we don't have to always do stuff with Swansea. We want to put these guys in a position where they can take the next step in their professional careers. And to do that, they need to be exposed to what it's going to take to get to the next level that they seek. So in any way, if they can do that, by all means do it, except for taking a league game there. That's just the only thing we should be doing.
Yeah. As Kim's just said, nobody wants to see Arsenal against the Colorado Rapids.
I do. I laugh. I need to laugh right now. That'd be
Yeah.
a 90-minute laugh. You saw how they played last night. You seen how Arsenal has played at times. That, like, who would blink first? It would be.
Ooh. Yeah.
And that story.
John has asked, Donald, how much of money have you saved not flying all across North America for US national team games for the last 6 months?
Not well. There's give and take, John. See, there is the money that you spend on traveling, and then there's the money that you spend on jerseys, and then sometimes that money blends. And so when it comes to this pandemic, yeah, I'm not flying, but these jerseys ain't buying themselves. So yeah, I've saved a lot of money on travel, but as much it's funny, I have bought more jerseys this year than I have in any year, and people who know me know I buy a metric buttload of jerseys. But this year has been just I don't know where to put them all. But at the same time, I'm still saving quite a bit of money because I'm not going out. I'm not paying for parking at the stadium. I'm not pre-gaming for games at the stadium. The things that I would normally be doing, which I would go back to if it was safe today, but it just isn't. And so with that, eating out and all those little things that just kind of add up. Yeah, I've been saving a lot of money. And the travel part, I just kind of factored that travel part in, and I just took that budget and transferred it over to jerseys, it seems.
So what's the best jersey you've bought then since lockdown?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. it's also in the UK. There's a site called Killavilla FC. They do a lot of mashups from soccer and hip hop. So they'll have like a Nas jersey or a Jay-Z jersey. They came out with a couple of jerseys for Jay Dilla, which is one of my favorite producers of all time. He's from Detroit, where I grew up. He passed away back in 2006 of lupus, but is one of the most influential producers that hip hop has ever had, and still is influential today, even though he's been gone from us for the last 14 years. But they came out with 2 jerseys from his last album, which came out 3 days after he passed away, called Donuts. One was pink and black. And those of y'all who know me knew that was a must grab. I got that one. That was right when the pandemic started. And then when the pandemic started, maybe a couple months in, they released a third kit that was modeled after the Detroit Tigers. And so I got one of those. And they were so great because they didn't have my size initially. So I bought a smaller size than I normally have. It fit okay. But I was like, hey, if you guys get the size that I need, would I be able to exchange it? And maybe 2 months later, I finally found out that they put my size on sale, and they were so cool to just be like, yeah, send the jersey back. We'll refund you for the one that you bought. And then we'll send you, buy one of these. We'll send that to you. You send it back and we'll make it square. And they sure enough did. It took a month to get it because of customs being just kind of out of whack right now. But that jersey, once I got it, I was so happy that it finally hit my collection. Going to be one of my favorites to ever wear because, again, I'm a big Tigers fan. I'm a big Jay Dilla fan, and those go hand in hand.
Fair. You might be just watching there, just thinking, what the heck am I doing? My microphone arm decided to fall over on me. So
it happens too. I do podcasts like this is usually I have a headset because the mic that I used to have would do the same thing. It would just kind of fall down and just like you're just always fumbling around on camera. It happens.
It happens. Also, whilst we just went off air there for a brief moment, we also lost sound when we did come back on. So just to briefly, if you missed it, your favorite one of your favorite ones that you bought jerseys wise, we'll get this out there now, was the Pescara Calcio jersey that with the dolphin on. So we'll just get that out there. So I do apologize for all this annoying technical issues we've just had in the last 5-10 minutes. But you know, as we said, this is the technical age. This is the way life is right now.
If you haven't had a technical difficulty on a virtual podcast like this, or even just a Zoom call or anything, then you really haven't been living these last 7 months.
Exactly. If you don't have technical issues, you're not doing it right.
You're not doing it right. Yeah, you're not trying.
Exactly. Yeah. So we've just had, as I said, just a few comments coming through. John said his jersey pile is ever expanding. I would like to know what is your best jersey that you've bought recently, John. He's just said he's been on the hunt for a Barry jersey. That's not Barry Island in the UK. That is Barry in Italy, in his size. But it's like they don't do big boy sizes for lower league Italian teams.
They really don't.
No.
I got a Chris Durkin jersey because they were on sale from his team in Belgium. Yeah. And I got what I thought was a size above mine. It fits like a medium. Like I'm not a medium. It's a great jersey. It looks great. It's gonna be a permanent part of my collection. It will probably be one that I will never ever be able to wear because it's that tiny, but it still looks really nice. So if you guys are watching the Belgian League, you can watch Chris Durkin wear these jerseys, but you're not gonna be able to fit them because they're really very small.
He's also just said European sizing is trash. Excuse me, John. European sizing is on point. Because I just remember I got my first actual DC United jersey, and this must be gone 4 years ago now, because trying to get them over here was quite difficult to say the least. And I ended up getting a double XL one because normally, I'm 6'10", so I'm a giant, and the thing that I struggle with, generally speaking, is the length of clothing. And I thought, you know what, I'll go for a double XL just to make sure I've got the right size. And it's like wearing a dress.
That's my size, so it fits me fine. But I'm also not 6'10".
It's just the length, not just the length, but it was just crazy. So for me, the American sizing is a little bit getting used to. XL, I can get away with.
Yeah.
Absolutely fine. That's not a problem. I'm just never going to go for a double XL ever again, I think. Kim has just got one of those Durkin jerseys.
See,
they're good. It's not
Ask him if he. I don't know if he got the yellow one or if he got the black one. There's a black one that has a gold like chevron in the middle.
Oh, nice.
That was really nice. Their away kit from last year, and then their home kit is it's a yellow with a blue stripe, and it's always gonna pop. So if you're able to fit one, definitely wear it, because people are gonna be like, "Man, that's a great jersey. Where'd you get it?" And you can say, "Oh man, Chris Durkin. I go way back."
Yeah, you know that American soccer player that's now playing in Europe.
Yeah, it's time to that. No,
used to play for
You
used to play for DC United. Major League Soccer. Yeah, he's got the yellow one.
Yeah,
nice.
There you go.
Very nice.
Yeah, Kim.
And let's put it out there. So, to the people who are watching live, what is your favorite jersey that you've got of all time? I'm trying to think. I'm just trying to think of what mine would be. It's a tricky one.
I'm looking at my collection right now.
Oh.
In the closet. Or at least part of it.
Yeah.
Because I have quite a bit. See, my favorite jersey of all time is not a soccer jersey.
Oh. Okay.
It's a Barry Sanders jersey, an authentic one.
Yeah.
The year that he broke for 2,000 yards in a season. So I have that jersey. That one I don't even wear it anymore. Like when I get a house, something, I'll frame it, and hopefully, one day he'll sign it, and that'll be something I pass down to somebody. And I also have a replica Barry Sanders jersey that gets worn very often. For soccer, though, I would have to go with the Waldo. The 2012 U.S. Waldo is the greatest jersey that they've ever put out. It's my favorite jersey of the lot. Like I wear that to matches mostly. And even, the AO American Outlaws jerseys that we designed just now came out. We designed them like the Waldo because they were so popular. So I now have 3, 4, 5 more Waldos that I can have in my collection. And so that one with the Michigan 26 on the back, that one's always special to me. And I always wear that one a lot because it just kind of, those are where a lot of memories were made in that jersey. So I think that is that's going to always be the pinnacle for soccer jerseys for me. There's obviously going to be some that people may think are have better designs or prettier or better, whatever. But that one's the one that's my favorite.
Fair. I think for me, because I obviously follow DC United, but over here in the UK, I follow Middlesbrough. Mm-hmm. And I think one of my favourite ones is probably one of the most garish ones as well. So back in, it would have been the 94-95 season, so going back quite a few years now, the away jersey, which was 2 shades of green.
I think I've seen this jersey in pictures before. I haven't seen it in the flesh, but
it'll probably be from the days when Jaime Moreno used the season before he signed for us. And yeah, it was not even 2 nice shades of green. It was like horrible dark green. It was just, but it worked, and it had one of the weirdest sponsors. It was just from a local company that sold windows, I think it was. It was just one of those things that it just brought back it still does. It brings back fond memories of that time. But if it wasn't the Borough one, there is the footballer Peter Crouch.
Yeah.
I've got one of his I've got a England jersey with his name and number on the back of it from England days. So
that makes sense. That ties in pretty well.
Yeah. I mean the fact that I'm taller than him, that's nothing, but hey.
You're one of the few people on earth that if you met him, you're like, nice to meet you, and you look down at him.
Yeah. Oh, I would love to meet him. I love his podcast as well. It is just absolutely hilarious.
I haven't listened to it, but I hear it's really nice. I hear a lot of people enjoy it, especially people who, he played for a lot of teams. So a lot of his former fans from all those teams apparently love that podcast.
I love John's just going, do you know Peter Crouch? Come on, James, we have TV here. Well, he's not, I was about to say he's not the biggest footballer. He clearly is.
Oh, he's pretty tall. You can't miss
pretty tall. But But he's not. I wouldn't have said he was the most well-known footballer out there. He's not the likes of Messi or anything like that. But it's nice to know Peter Crouch is known stateside.
Oh yeah.
He
He played in the Premier League, so most people will probably like, oh, Peter Crouch. Like I know Peter Crouch. He was first teamer. He was a little youngster. They're lying to you. But we but we know Peter Crouch. We know a lot of those guys, especially coming up. Especially the thing is when he's tall, American media will focus on like, see, he's tall. He can play. Why don't basketball players play soccer? Done. Get on another rant.
No. What else have we got on here? So John's favorite jersey is his Forward Madison jersey that he bought in the last few months. Makes him sad that it's not a sewn-on crest though.
Yeah, that's the thing with the lower leagues. They have the screen print jerseys, but because of that, they're able to take more chances with things, and I think I like that. Some people want there's something to be said for having the crest that you can feel and touch, right? But when it comes to the lower leagues, they don't have that option sometimes, and sometimes they just like, hey, why don't we go bold with our design? And it means they make everything screen print so that it's sublimated so that they can put it all on there. For Fort Madison, they ain't missed yet. So if they need to screen print every crest on there to do it, keep doing it because they don't miss at all.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some of their stuff that they're bringing out, and their whole branding is really on point, I feel.
Yeah.
Right. So I think we're coming up to the end. Unless anyone else out there, if you've got any questions, get them in now. But it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you, Donald, because I mean, this is really only the second time we've properly spoken, because the first time would have been that postponed Toronto game when I was supposed to host that thing that was supposed to happen, and
the game didn't happen.
It didn't happen. I was asked to come back to do it the next day, but I was working, so I couldn't. And it was just, it was so frustrating. But it's nice to actually catch up with you again, and it's really good to hear another fellow fan, and as you rightly said, a DCU super fan.
Yeah, I try to be. I mean, there's more of us out there, and honestly, look, you get to watch this team in the middle of the night. You have to do things that we can't. We have the luxury of just I can sit down and grab some dinner and grab a beer and watch the game, and you have to sometimes wake up to watch these games. So I commend you for just being such a huge fan and being a fan enough to watch all these games to talk about it, because I know how difficult that is to be able to watch a game well enough to talk about it. And no, this is great. It's been fun to be on here. I mean, we've been talking for just about 90 minutes, and that doesn't seem like it. So because it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. So for the folks out there who are going to be listening to this show later on after we've gone live, where can people find you on social media?
Twitter and Instagram, I'm at BlazinDW, BLAZINDW. I'm very active on Twitter, especially during the day, because I ain't got anything else to do during this pandemic. So, yeah, find me on there. Kick it. We'll talk soccer, talk basketball, talk any other sport you want. And yeah, that's basically where you can find me.
Awesome. And also, I think we just had a little quick comment on there. That's why I'm looking down here. You're welcome, John. It's always awesome to do this. He asks you, Donald, to call into the show sometime.
Yeah, would be happy to.
Yeah, I'm sure you didn't you call in on one of a few episodes ago.
Yeah, I call in Tried and True. I'm really good. Friends with those guys.
Yep.
But so I'm usually either commenting or sending him a text or something and chiming in when I have the energy to do so. 2020 has been a really messed up year, but it's been good to at least take those opportunities to kind of put life aside for a hot minute and watch some soccer with some fabulous people in this DCU family that we have. So appreciate you being a part of that.
Oh, thank you very much. And for me, if you're not following me on Twitter, how the heck did you find this show? But if you haven't, hit me up at DC United Kingdom. We're on Instagram and Facebook as well, so it's at DC United Kingdom FC. There is a website, which I'm in the progress of changing around a little bit, so hopefully you'll see some things on there, but it's still live in the old style. That's dcunitedkingdom.com. If you want to join the group, just hit up the membership form on there. It's free to join. And if you want some merchandise, because this shirt is no longer available, because this was an exclusive shirt for members at the very beginning, but there is other stuff out there. There is other t-shirts, there's stickers now. I'm working on the stateside, because you can't get them in the States at the moment, but we'll get there. Just hit the merchandise page over on the website and you'll see everything available. And that's about it, really. And my last few words, until next time,